Welcome back to CBS News 24/7, where we continue breaking news coverage. Right now, you are looking at a helicopter shot where we expect in moments ahead to see the armored vehicle carrying ousted Venezuelan president and widely thought to be a dictator, Nicolás Maduro. He has left the courtroom after his arraignment and now will be taken back to custody to await what is next for him. Today in court, we heard him say not guilty. That was the plea from the ousted Venezuelan leader. Also, the same echo from his wife, Cilia Flores. A very dramatic arraignment playing out in that New York City courtroom last hour. They did it through a translator. This comes after a top secret U.S. military operation over the weekend caught the man widely thought once again to be a dictator. He is now out of power, and the person who was second in command is now in charge, the vice president there, at least for now, as President Trump says to the American media, we, the United States, are running things in Venezuela. So let's run over the charges right now. Maduro faces charges of narco-terrorism conspiracy and conspiracy to import cocaine and weapons. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is live outside that courthouse in New York City. Katrina, you were inside the room where Maduro stood for his arraignment. Tell us your impressions and what you saw.
So Maduro was in court with his wife, Cilia Flores. He was very vocal, actually. When the judge first asked him to stand up and identify himself, Maduro launched into a speech in Spanish. The judge ultimately said he just wanted to make sure that this was, in fact, Maduro. But we did get a couple lines of what he said. He said, "I was captured at my home in Caracas, Venezuela. And that he ultimately said this was the first time he was seeing his indictment, but he wanted to read it personally on his own, not in that courtroom. They are also both not seeking to get out of detention at this time. That's something that they might revisit later. He was taking copious notes, though. Each of them had headphones on because there was a translator in their ear translating everything that was going on in that room. He looked very serious, maybe a bit frustrated at times to even be there at all, but it was a very respectful exchange between Maduro and the judge, Hallerstein, who has presided over many big matters, including some involving President Donald Trump.
And just to sort of step back, we are hearing some of the protesters outside that courtroom, like we've heard the last hour with our correspondents there. And then just a moment ago, you saw that image, that video of a freeway. That is the road that we expect Maduro will be taking as he makes his way back to behind bars. Now, we do know he has a defense strategy. We start to get a sense of what cards his defense lawyers will play. He has indeed lawyered up. What do you know about his attorneys?
So we know his attorney is Barry Pollock. He is a very experienced trial lawyer. He has just jumped on this case. One thing he did make clear in court is that they plan to challenge the legality of the arrest. That's something that we expected. If you look at case precedent here, it's very unlikely that they will win on that matter, but they are absolutely planning to raise it. They also asked the judge to waive his speedy trial right until March. That's when we're going to have another hearing at this courthouse, a check-in. They say they want to first deal with the voluminous discovery here and that there will be significant motions filed. I think another one that we will very likely see is saying that as a head of state that he should have immunity. So it will be a very complicated case, and he does now have this counsel.
All right, March 17th, the next time we will see a hearing on this. Katrina Kaufman, thank you so much. So let's go even deeper. Let's go to CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi. Caroline, always good to talk to you. I love your expertise. Your take on what you've read so far and what happened in the courtroom today.
Yeah, not too surprising, Reed. I think what I was looking for was whether or not Maduro was going to have lined up a retained attorney. We knew he likely, obviously, would have a court-appointed attorney if he needed to, but he does have this great criminal defense attorney, very high profile, represented Julian Assange in the WikiLeaks matter in New York, so he knows what he's doing. And just as Katrina was saying there, everything that I expected happened today, which is that his defense attorneys noted that they will be making really every anticipated argument regarding his extraction from Venezuela, that it was illegal, that it was in violation of international law, that it was in violation of national law, and that he should be granted sovereign immunity because he was the president of Venezuela. Now, as Katrina also alluded to, there is precedent for those arguments. It's very similar to the Manuel Noriega case back in 1989 when George H.W. Bush extracted him from Panama. We noted then that we saw him as a rogue dictator. We didn't believe he was a legitimate head of state. Therefore, the court said, regardless of how he got on United States soil, they would proceed with the prosecution and that he doesn't get sovereign immunity.
We can contrast what is happening with the prosecution, I think, with what happened in the days and weeks leading up with the military operation. A great deal of preparation, a great deal of planning. They knew exactly how this would go from the very beginning. On the prosecution side, where the legal side is concerned, do you feel like there has been work leading up to this that could mirror what happened in Venezuela with the military, some preparation here?
Oh, absolutely. And Marco Rubio made it abundantly clear. You know, this was a DOJ operation that was aided by the FBI and special forces because this was an extraction of two indicted individuals. Remember, Reed, this is a superseding indictment. This indictment against Maduro has been out there since 2020. So he's been under indictment for 5 years. And that's really the argument that the administration is making for why this was not an active war. The fact that there is sort of no one in charge of Venezuela now is just kind of like a byproduct of this extraction. And so that's sort of the legal hook here for why the administration feels that it did not violate the Constitution and or international law by going and getting him.
Were you struck as somebody who knows the law that there was no push for bail?
No, I thought that was a really good move on the part of the defense attorney. He's going to gain a lot of credibility with the judge because it would have been a ridiculous motion to make. You know, under the Bail Reform Act, the two factors that you have to decide are flight risk and risk to the community. He's obviously a flight risk, Reed. So there's no chance he was going to make bail, although they did say it was without prejudice. They may put together a package in the future, but he's not making bail. He's going to be in the Metropolitan Detention Center until his trial.
All right, Caroline Polisi, fascinating always to talk to you. Thank you so much for that, watching this case so closely, as you will be, we know, for the months ahead.